Today I'm having coffee with Adam Dawes to talk about user identity on the Google platform and what's new in our sign-in with Google APIs.
Tell us, what is it that you do and what are you working with?
Yeah, I lead Google's Federated identity team, and what I do is I try to build seamless experiences for users off of Google. So going to any third-party app, users that have a Google account, but also just to really help developers in the ecosystem build extremely simple identity experiences.
Now, starting with Google Play Services 8.3, I can really see how you've simplified the API. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Google Sign-In, we've gone through and kind of basically redone the whole API, the whole service from top to bottom over the last year. Some of the things that we've really focused on is trying to decouple from the Google Plus sign-in that launched from a few years ago, and to make it radically simpler for both users and developers as they build their sign-in experiences.
Users had a lot of interim screens that they had to go through to be able to sign in, and now that's been cut drastically.
Yeah, I think the landscape's changed a lot over the last couple of years, and users are a lot more sensitive to privacy and the information that they give. So we're trying to lead towards a model where the user just gives the bare bones information to the app and has a super low friction experience signing in to the apps. And so we've recentered Google Sign-In around that. Can I show you what we're talking about here?
Sure.
So let me show you the Runkeeper app here that has implemented the latest Google Sign-In API. So the experience now, once a user taps that, they get this new UI, which includes what we call account chips here.
Okay.
Now, before, with the Google Plus sign-in, they got this really big consent screen with tons of words on it, lots of cognitive overload. It had switches and controls about which circles they wanted to share with, and
I like the phrase cognitive overload.
Yes, it was complicated for the end user. So what we have here with the account chips is what we call a what you see is what you give consent flow. So all the user needs to do is tap on the profile that they want to log in as, and they're done.
Now, those are the profiles that are already on the phone?
That's right. The user signs into the phone with their Google account, and then that provides which accounts they can log into on the app. So
we've seen you've made it so much easier for users. Like, how about developers? I know there's new APIs out there and they're supposed to make it easier and that kind of stuff. So how does a developer get started, and how does a developer take advantage of all of this?
Right. We've totally transformed the APIs from top to bottom, and we've centered them around OpenID Connect. So this is the new authentication standard. It came out a couple years ago, and it's really where the industry is moving to have a very common language for doing identity from one IDP to another. And so every app doesn't have to reinvent, oh, I have to talk to this IDP this way, this IDP that way.
And
it's all just consistent.
Yeah, and needing all that interoperability can lead to potential security holes, right?
Exactly.
So that consistency makes you more secure.
Yeah, exactly. But the real innovation behind OpenID Connect is this thing called the identity token.
Right.
It's a blob of JSON that is signed. So when you go through that experience and you tap on the account that you want to log in as, that signal goes back to Google, and then Google sends out an identity token back to the app.
Okay.
And that identity token, this blob of JSON, basically has the user's email address, their name, a couple of other, their Google ID, their Google identifier that not user-facing, but is a unique identifier for that user.
Because they can change their email address but keep the same identity.
Exactly. So that will tie them together with that carbon life form as it goes through those different manifestations. And then it's stamped by Google. It's signed by Google. And so that's super important, because then the app knows for sure that that Google user was really there on that device.
Right.
And the ID tokens are super portable, so the app itself can pull out all the information of the user and personalize the app and show the profile photo and the user's name in the app. And then it can send that ID token back to its server, and it can do that with its API calls. Right. Which you outlined really well in your blog post.
Thank you.
Then on the server side, it can verify that, again, Google signed this and that Google user was really there on that device. And so it makes security a lot simpler for developers. And again, they don't have to reinvent the wheel again.
And it's really important that it's effectively the same API infrastructure on both the mobile device and on the server, using the same thing, because the more things that you use, the greater the potential attack surface, right? And having this consistency is really cool.
Exactly. So we we've rebuilt the client SDKs around OpenID Connect,
Right.
and it's super simple to pull out that ID token so you can send it to your server, or you can just talk to the SDKs to get out the JSON so you can personalize your app right then and there in context.
Yep.
And just a much simpler experience, not again tied in with all of the social stuff as much. So if all you want to do with sign-in is just sign the user in, then we've made that path much more straightforward for the developer.
One question, change of course for a second, but one question we've heard a lot and we've seen on Stack Overflow is like with iOS, and there were problems with using this technology and using Google sign-in technology with iOS, but that's a thing of the past now, right?
Yes. Very thankfully, that is a thing of the past. So some apps had some trouble with Apple, apps that had been using Google sign-in. Apple didn't like the fact that we were popping out to Safari to do the sign-in event, which we felt very strongly about from a security perspective, because that's where the user actually understands where they're putting their credentials, because they can see in the URL that they're going to Google. But it seems like they agreed that that was an important thing for the user to be able to do, so they invented Safari View Controller in iOS 9.
I see.
And so iOS 9 has much better navigation characteristics. It is much more in line with the application. It just comes in on the side, and the user can't get lost. The user can't go elsewhere. Once they have a web browser open, it's much more tied to the app. But it has all the benefits of Safari, where the user's sign-in state, if they've already logged into Safari, you actually get a true single sign-in experience. If that user's already logged into Google, then all it is a single tap, just like I showed you, exactly, where the user doesn't have to sign into Google all over again.
A great hidden benefit of all this, of course, is that you don't have to build all the security infrastructure yourself and manage and maintain security infrastructure, given the environment that we live in today. So, but if I'm a developer and I want to get started in this, where should I get started? What's the best site to go to, other than my blogs, of course?
Well, that is a great place to start, but you want to go to developers.google.com/identity, and that outlines how you do Google sign-in and smart lock for passwords, as well as Google Identity Toolkit, which all of this auth stuff is still, probably more complicated and requires more time than many developers want to spend. And so Google Identity Toolkit is like your login system in a box.
Absolutely. It's your best friend.
Right.
Cool. And any folks watching this video, if they have any questions for me or any questions for you, they can just leave them in the comments below and we'll be sure to answer them.
Awesome.